Of special interest is special only for one simple reason: it brings you joy. If it's something that you enjoy doing, I don't care whether it's productive or not. If you enjoy it, that's being very productive in my book. You're engaged in an activity that is producing joy. I can't think of anything more productive than that. It's something that makes life worth living. It's just that simple. If it brings you joy, that is the best use of your time. Why? Well, that sounds like a bold statement. If it brings me joy, that's the best use of my time. Yeah, because there's so many wonderful organic side benefits of that. Now, I've engaged my parasympathetic nervous system. Now, I've reduced my cortisol and adrenaline. Now, I'm recharging my battery. Now, I'm actually enjoying life instead of dreading things. Now, when I go face my wife, I'm going to be in a better mood. Now I'm going to be in a better position to deal with challenges when they show up. There's a cascade of positive things associated when that one thing happens. Joy. You should be engaging in something that brings you joy because, as I mentioned, that's the top rung on the ladder. And there's so many other positive things that happen once that thing happens. One of which is now you have more energy to engage in mundane tasks that she would prefer you be doing instead. When you need a timeout, if you were to not take the timeout and sit there and hang in there, she's going to be spending a lot of time and energy delivering a message that she would be better served to talk to the wall about it. Yes, the wall would probably retain more of it than you would in that moment. So it doesn't make any sense for you to go, okay, well, the timeout thing always causes a problem. Hanging in there causes a worse problem. So we're not talking about eliminating a problem here with the timeout. We're talking about picking the smaller devil. There's two devils. There's a huge one and there's a medium one. We'll pick the medium one. But another thing that will help is to give her a timeline, because I don't know, maybe you've already done that piece, but this is the best I can do for you. You will have to follow through with this whether she likes it or not. And if she doesn't like the timeout, she's going to feel abandoned. I'm sorry to say it, it's just too bad. Because you can't hang in there if your anxiety is way up here and she expects you to listen. I would think that she would appreciate the fact that you would want to take a time out so you can come back down to ground, to the earth, and be a little more mindful of what she's saying. So why don't you try this, and maybe you already have. If you have not, do it. If you already have, you're going to have to keep doing it anyway, and say something like this: your message is important to me. I want to hear it. Right now, I'm not really retaining it. So I need to take a time out for your benefit because I want to get your message. And I will be back at X o'clock to talk about it. So you don't just, I need a time out and leave. You say, I need a time out for your benefit. I want to get your message. And right now, I'm not getting it. And you're kind of wasting your breath at this point. No offense. A, your message is important to me, and B, we will come back and talk about this at 3 o'clock. And you give her a definite time. Don't just say, well, we'll talk about it later. Or can we pick this up later this evening? No, you better make a specific time. And you have to come back and talk about it at that time. It would be better to not do anything I just said than to say, I need a timeout because I want to hear your message and I'll be back at 6, and then you don't show up at 6. That's worse than not doing anything, because now she's going to think you're full of shit. You deliver the message to her that this is about, I'm taking a time out for your benefit. This is about you. This is about your message and me wanting to retain it. And I will be back to talk to you about this at 6 o'clock. You wouldn't necessarily have to make it right on the minute. You could say, we will tackle this thing sometime between 6 and 6:30, somewhere in there. But you got to make sure you get back to it. Unless you're saving a baby from drowning in the backyard pool, your ass better be there at 6 o'clock. Due to some of the things associated with the disorder, namely mind blindness, alexithymia, some executive function deficits, central coherence deficit, etc., the guy basically lives in a world that's very unpredictable to him. That's why there's always anxiety associated with autism spectrum disorder, because he is literally unable to predict most things, and that's very stressful. And that's why he also wants a high level of structure, predictability, doesn't like change. That's also why he is very sensitive to anything that could download as criticism to him. And some of the ladies in here, you've said some things that you thought were pretty much neutral, but you still may have downloaded it as criticism. And oftentimes this comes from growing up, knowing that something is not quite right with me. Maybe he was ostracized from his peer group, teased, bullied, problem child at school, and so on. And so self-esteem is very low. So now we fast forward to where he's an adult and he's married, and some of her attempts to get him to connect remind him of some past experiences where he has been criticized and told what to do, always been told what he's doing wrong or what he's saying wrong, or things that he's supposed to say and do, and he doesn't. And so he's been in many cases, it may not be the case with any guys in here, but in many cases, he's been in trouble with somebody to one degree or another his entire life, and he's tired of it. He's tired of being told how he's falling short. He already feels bad enough about himself. He already knows that something's not quite right. His self-esteem is already shot. His anxiety is already through the roof. And so what that guy needs, and I'm finally getting to the point here, more than anything, he feels like he's not appreciated. And he often will say things like, it doesn't matter what I say or do, it's never enough. I've tried, I always fall short. And so with the guy, what he wants more than anything, and what he found in the early going of the relationship, he wants to be appreciated. He doesn't feel appreciated, and he values that. And when he first hooked up with you, the NT wife in this case, whatever you said or did, it conveyed appreciation to him, and that he valued that, and that's probably why he stuck around, quite honestly. But as his special interest, which was you in the early going of the relationship, as his special interest changed over the years, he kind of drifted away. Then the NT wife tries to pull him back in, but her method, unfortunately, raises his anxiety, and he wants to distance himself even more. And as he does that, he loses what little bit of appreciation that he was getting from her, or he might have been getting a lot of appreciation from her in the beginning, but as he distances himself, he gets less and less appreciation. That's what's going on with him. With her, in the early going of the relationship, what she wanted more than anything, of course she wants to be appreciated, but what she wants more than that is intimacy. That was her big deal. And when she first hooked up with him, she got a lot of intimacy because she was his special interest in the early going of the relationship. But again, as the couple drifted apart, she got less and less intimacy, and her motives were well-intended when she was trying to get him to continue to give her intimacy. When it was waning, he, as I mentioned earlier, became more distant. She got less and less intimacy, and so that's kind of where we're at today, where he feels underappreciated. She feels like she's not getting any intimacy. What he fears most is being criticized. What she fears most is being neglected. He's feeling like he's being criticized all the time. She feels rejected and abandoned. And what he wants more than anything to pull him back into the relationship is to feel appreciated. And what she wants more than anything in order to pull her back in to the relationship is to reestablish a bond, reestablish trust. She doesn't want to play second fiddle to his special interest or his job, and so on.
Chronic anger is resentment. That's point number one. Chronic anger is resentment. Point number two, chronic anger and resentment will cause physical health problems. Chronic anger and resentment will cause cancer in some cases, autoimmune disease, heart disease, high blood pressure, brain fog, and so on. That's point number two. Point number three is really a question, and I want you to ask yourself, you're going to compare you to your spouse, who is having the most physical health problems? You or the other party? And who seems to be the most resentful? And is the one who's having the most health problems also the one who's possibly the most resentful? Do some soul searching on that. Hey guys, this is Mark. Click on the join button underneath any of my videos, then click on members only videos, and then click on join. And for $9.99 a month, you'll have access to members only videos, which are excerpts from previous workshops I've conducted for NT partners, ASD partners, and the neurodiverse couple. New videos will be uploaded weekly.